Jex Karen hit that particular flavor of exhaustion where the universe stops being neutral and starts feeling like it's doing things at you. The cargo hold lights were a shade too bright, the station's gravity a hair too eager, and the stacks of sealed containers had clearly formed a union with the express purpose of multiplying. When he wasn't looking, his exo-assist sleeves hissed softly with every lift and pivot, helping his arms do what his brain had stopped volunteering for about 5 hours ago. Above him, the station's posture coach and AI with the cheerful tone of someone who had never hauled anything heavier than a spreadsheet kept chiming reminders. Reminder: maintain lumbar alignment for optimal long-term function. Jex ignored it on principle and spite. He'd been on shift for 16 hours. He was running on reclaimed coffee, a nutrient bar that tasted like guilt, and the faint hope that his bunk hadn't been claimed by mildew in his absence. He was halfway through signing off a manifest on his cracked handpad when someone crossed the open span of the hangar walkway behind him. Footsteps, light, unhurried. The sort of pace reserved for people with intact sleep schedules. Jex's mouth fired before his common sense finished booting. "Nice ass," he muttered low, absent-minded. Barely looking up, he didn't even mean it as a move. It was the verbal equivalent of dropping a bolt you're too tired to pick up. He expected a scoff, a curse, maybe nothing. Instead, the footsteps stopped. The silence after that was so complete it felt engineered, like the station had muted itself to watch what happened next. Even the conveyors seemed to glide more quietly, as if unwilling to interrupt. Jex's thumbs froze over the pad. Slowly, very slowly, he looked up. The woman had turned around. She wasn't dressed like a visiting dignitary. No flowing regalia, no guards, no ceremonial shimmer. She wore fitted station workout gear, practical, unadorned. The kind that said I actually use the gym rather than I take pictures near the gym. The hangar lighting washed her skin with a pale glow, almost luminous against the steel and shadow. Her hair blonde, tied back for function, left a few loose strands around a face that looked composed, not bored, not irritated, composed, the way people are when rooms tend to get quiet for them. And then Jex noticed the ears, longer than human, elegant, tapered points rising through her hair with no attempt to hide them. Not decorative prosthetics, not cosplay, real. His stomach dropped through the deck plating. Oh, he managed, like a man discovering oxygen is optional, because he knew those ears. Everyone knew those ears. Everyone knew the silhouette, the face, the way she held stillness like a weapon. Queen Moral of the Stellar Concord stood in his cargo hold as if she belonged there, and the galaxy had simply failed to inform him. You didn't preside over 14 systems by accident. You didn't spend years stitching ceasefires together and twisting trade treaties into something that didn't draw blood without learning how to look at someone like they were a problem you intended to solve. Jex's brain sprinted through consequences with the speed of panic, detainment, public apology. A very awkward educational seminar about respect. Ejection into vacuum for crimes against diplomacy. Somehow, paperwork heavy even in 0G. "I'm so sorry," he blurted, straightening so hard his exosleeves squealed in protest. That was wow. That was extremely inappropriate. I didn't. I mean, I wasn't. I didn't know. She stepped closer. Jex locked up like a faulty loader. The distance between them shrank to a few meters, then less. He became painfully aware of the grease smear on his forearm, the coolant smell clinging to his clothes, and the fact that his pants were not the kind anyone should be photographed in, let alone near royalty. Queen Moral regarded him with calm, unreadable eyes. Then, softly, she said, "Say it again." Jex blinked. "I'm sorry. No." Her voice stayed level, curious rather than sharp. "The other thing." Jex let out a short sound that might have been laughter if laughter could be filed. "As an accident report, that seems medically unwise. I am not offended," she said. "If I were offended, security would be present and you would already be on the floor. That's comforting," Jex offered weakly. For the first time, her mouth shifted not into the practiced diplomatic curve he'd seen on feeds, but into something smaller, real, like it had been waiting unused. 15 years, she said, as if continuing a thought he hadn't heard. "That is how long I have been queen. In that time, nearly every sentence spoken to me has been measured, polished, filtered through 3 layers of fear and strategy." She moved into the edge of the loading zone, where the overhead strips cast clean, sharp lines across her face. Her ears tilted slightly forward, a subtle gesture that somehow made her look more attentive, more alive. "What you said was crude," she added, "poorly timed, socially catastrophic." Jex nodded fast. "I excel in those." "And yet," Moral continued, "it was honest." The hangar felt smaller. Or maybe his world had just rearranged itself around her. "No one speaks to me without knowing who I am," she said. "No one forgets. Jex swallowed. "Trust me, I will never forget this as long as I live. Possibly longer. I might haunt myself with it." A quiet laugh slipped out of her, startling in the vast metal chamber. "So," she said gently, folding her hands behind her back with a posture that looked almost rebellious in its casualness, "say it again. Speak to me as you would to anyone else." Jex stared at her, certain he'd finally hallucinated from sleep deprivation and protein bar poisoning. He took a slow breath, looked at her, not a symbol, not a broadcast, not the face on treaty documents, just a woman standing alone in a cargo bay, power balanced on her shoulders like weight she'd set down for a moment. "Well," he said slowly, choosing his words with care and a reluctant grin, "you do, in fact, have a very nice ass for a heartbeat." The universe paused. Then Queen Moral laughed, not politely, not as a tactic. A real laugh, warm and surprised, echoing off cargo crates and gantry rails like it didn't know it was allowed to exist here. Jex half-expected alarms to blare, unauthorized joy detected. None came. The station kept humming as if this was a perfectly normal feature of interstellar logistics. Moral covered her mouth briefly, almost embarrassed by the sound, then let her hand fall. Her ears flicked back and forward like she was recalibrating. "I had forgotten what that sounded like," she murmured. "Your voice?" Jex asked. "Because I can assure you, it's not something to miss." Laughter. She corrected. Mine. Jax shifted, suddenly aware that he'd just complimented the rear end of one of the most influential people in known space and remained in possession of all his limbs. For the record, he said, "This is not how my day usually goes. I imagine not." She glanced around at the towers of freight and the flicker of status lights. "Do you always speak so freely here?" "Only when my brain clocks out early," Jax said. "Usually I keep my mouth behind several locked doors." She studied him, up close. He noticed things that didn't translate through broadcasts. The faint lines at the corners of her eyes, earned rather than painted, the controlled rise and fall of her breathing, the way her ears reacted not just to sound but to feeling. "Tell me something," she said. "When you spoke to me just now, what did you think I was?" Jax snorted. "Honestly, a gym fanatic with sponsorship deals and too much confidence." Her brows lifted. "I do not know what half of those words mean." "That's fair," Jax said. "They're mostly insults." Again, that slow smile. "You did not see a queen," she said. "No," he admitted. "If I had, I would have panicked silently, like a professional. Instead, I panicked out loud." "I see you contain multitudes," she said dryly. They stood in the quiet, no longer heavy. Moral tilted her head as if listening to something Jax couldn't hear. "My schedule believes I am currently in private meditation. Does your schedule often believe lies?" "It has learned not to argue." Jax nodded. "Good schedule?" She stepped closer, not invading his space so much as sharing it. "Speak to me," she said. "Not as a subject, as yourself." Jax rubbed the back of his neck. "You're really sure about this?" "Yes." Her eyes sharpened a fraction. "And I should warn you. I complain. I unload freight," Jax said. "I can survive complaints. I negotiate planetary borders," she replied. "I can survive yours." He hesitated, then exhaled. "Fine. Honesty, being queen, looks exhausting. Everyone bows. Nobody relaxes. And I'm guessing it's impossible to know if anyone actually likes you." Her ears dipped slightly. "They respect me," she said. "That wasn't the question," Jax replied. A pause. Then, quietly, "No." Something in him softened, something that hadn't had time to be human lately. "Look," he said, "I don't know your customs, but humans? We're terrible at pretending forever. We crack. We say dumb things. Sometimes the dumb things are the only real ones." Moral considered. "That, among my people," she said, "directness is reserved for family or enemies." "So what does that make me?" Jax asked. She met his gaze, steady. "A mistake," he said quickly, because if he didn't joke, he might actually feel the weight of the moment. "Story of my life." A distant chime rolled. Through the hangar, an incoming transport alert. Moral glanced toward it, then back. "I should go," she said, though she didn't move. "Yeah," Jax said. "There tend to be questions when royalty wanders into loading zones." She hesitated, then extended her hand. Jax stared at it. "Is this a test?" "It is a human gesture," she said. "I have studied. Studied where?" Her lips curved faintly. "Do not ask." He took her hand. Her grip was warm and firm, reassuringly normal. For what it's worth, Jex said, you seem nice, us aside. Her laugh returned, softer but genuine. Jex Karen, she said, releasing him. I suspect this will not be our last improper conversation. He offered an awkward half-bow. Because his body didn't know what to do with respect that wasn't mandatory. Anytime you want to forget who you are, the cargo bays open. As she turned to leave, her ears flicked back in what Jex was starting to recognize as amusement. And for the first time in hours, the universe felt less personally offensive. 3 days later, Jex was almost convinced it had been a once-in-a-lifetime disaster. He would never repeat or mention to anyone, not even under torture. He was unloading atmospheric regulators grey, blocky machines with all the charm of dead rock when a maintenance drone drifted too close and bumped him gently on the shoulder. Jex glared at it. Back off, he muttered. I'm fragile. The drone beeped apologetically and scooted away. Jex checked the manifest again, mostly because staring at numbers kept his brain from replaying the memory of a queen laughing in his hangar. That's when someone cleared their throat behind him. Jex froze, very slowly. He turned. The woman standing there was not Queen Moral, which is to say she was absolutely Queen Moral, but wearing a plain station jacket, dark trousers, and a soft cap pulled low apparently under the impression that hiding the top half of her head would cause everyone to ignore the long, unmistakable ears peeking out. Hi, Jex said. She smiled. Bright and calm. Relax. I am officially elsewhere. Your schedule lying again. It is improving with practice. Jex glanced around. Workers moved along the lanes, tired and hungry, not paying them much attention. You can't just show up, he hissed. People notice you, not when they are thinking about their next meal, she said lightly. I chose the hour carefully. Jex dragged a hand down his face. Of course you did. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. I have been thinking about our conversation. That makes one of us. Jex said. I've been trying not to. You said something important. She continued. I said several stupid things. It's kind of my brand. You said honesty is what remains when people are too tired to pretend. Her ears twitched under the cap. I find this compelling. Jex exhaled. Congratulations. You've discovered the human condition. We're all one bad day away from being real. Morrow looked at the regulator beside him. What does this do? Keeps planets breathable, Jex said. Or kills everyone if installed backward. Her eyes widened with real curiosity. You trust machines with so much. We don't trust them, Jex replied. We double-check and hope. She laughed softly, as if that was both horrifying and funny. May I stay a while? Jex stared. You want to? Watch me work. I want to listen, she said. You speak without calculation here. You complain, you joke. You are yourself. That is an extremely poor reason to spend time near me, Jex said. Nevertheless, he hesitated, then shrugged because he'd long ago learned some disasters can't be avoided, only managed. Fine, he said, but if anyone asks, you're my consultant. On what subject? Regret, Jex said. You're overqualified. She took that with unsettling grace, so she stayed. And while his hands did their job, Jex talked about malfunctioning loaders and bolts that stripped if you looked at them wrong, about station food that tasted like recycled disappointment, about the time a shipment of ceremonial fish escaped and forced a temporary evacuation because nobody wanted to explain to management why the hallways were full of flopping diplomatic gifts. Moral listened like each complaint was a rare artifact. Occasionally she asked questions that revealed how much normal life had never touched her. "You choose what you eat?" she asked. Incredulous. "Sometimes," Jex said, "when the dispenser isn't broken. And if it tastes terrible, we complain," Jex said, "and eat it anyway. That is inefficient," she concluded. "So is ruling 14 systems." He shot back. She smiled, slow and real. Between crates and sarcasm, something settled into place, an accidental routine. She would arrive in different disguises, each more optimistic than effective. A mechanic's coat to sizes too big. A courier uniform with a badge that definitely belonged to someone named Ryo. Sometimes she tried scarves. Sometimes she gave up and let the ears exist like the truth. Jex stopped asking how she got past security. He suspected the answer involved royal clearance and ancient executive privileges, and maybe a small fleet of people who pretended not to see. The station, however, started to notice. Drones lingered. Security walked the hangar more often. Jex caught the way Moral's posture changed when others were near shoulders back, expressions smoothing into diplomatic distance, ears held neutral like carefully controlled flags. One day, while Jex recalibrated a loader, Moral stiffened. "They are watching," she murmured. Jex glanced around. "Who's they, and do I need to start pretending I'm better at lying?" "My advisors," she said. "They believe I am distracted." "By what?" Jex asked. "The thrilling world of freight." Her mouth twitched. "By you?" Jex dropped his tool. It clanged off the deck. "Oh, that's unfortunate. You are not what they expect," she said. "Neither is this sentence." Jex muttered. "They fear I am becoming informal." Jex blinked. "You laughed at a joke yesterday." "Yes," she said. "Grim," they noticed. "That's it," Jex said. "Pack it up. The Empire's falling." She laughed, then caught herself, glancing around like a child who'd broken something expensive. Her ears dipped. "I do not know how to stop," she admitted. "Here, with you, I forget." Jex's voice channeled before he could stop. For what it's worth, forgetting once in a while doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're breathing." She studied him like she was memorizing the idea. Then came the day she arrived without a smile. Her steps were measured. Her ears held rigidly still. Her face ranged into calm so carefully it looked like armor. She stood beside him in silence long enough that the hair on Jex's neck lifted. "Something's wrong," he said. "Yes," she answered. "Want to talk about it?" She hesitated. "A trade delegation is arriving. Hostile. They speak in courtesy and threaten in subtext." Jex grimaced. "Those are the worst kind. They will test me," Moral said. "Push and provoke. They expect the queen who calculates." "I worry I will hesitate." Jex leaned against a crate. honesty doesn't mean softness, he said. It means clarity. You can be clear and still be hard as steel. Her ears shifted, thoughtful. Clarity can be dangerous. So can pretending forever, Jex replied. Something resolute settled behind her eyes. I will try, she said. She turned to leave. Hey, Jex called after her. She paused. For the record, he said, grinning because it was the only way he knew to steady a moment like this, if anyone asks. I absolutely did not teach the Queen how to be human. Her ears flicked back amusement and warmth in one gesture. And if they do not ask, then we both deny everything, Jex said. She laughed softly and walked away carrying a little less weight than when she arrived. The delegation hit the station like weather, announced in advance, impossible to avoid, guaranteed to ruin someone's day. Lighting shifted to diplomatic neutrality, a color Jex privately called aggressive beige. Security drones multiplied. Every channel buzzed with reminders about protocol, decorum, and the importance of not starting interstellar incidents. In public corridors, Jex was tightening the same bolt for the third time when Moral appeared at the hangar edge. No disguise, formal attire this time sleek, elegant, threaded with subtle Concord sigils that shimmered when she moved. Her ears were uncovered and adorned with delicate bands that marked her status. She looked like a ruler stepping onto a stage where every gesture would be interpreted. And yet, when she reached Jex, she leaned close enough to murmur, if I do not return, tell my advisors I died heroically of boredom. Jex snorted. I'll make sure the plaque captures your suffering. Her lips twitched, then smoothed as footsteps approached. Advisors flanked her, polite and suspicious. Jex became intensely fascinated by his toolbox. Your Majesty, one advisor said, the delegation waits. I am aware, Moral replied, cool and measured. Then, just to ruin everyone's certainty, she added, I was finishing a conversation. The advisor's gaze slid to Jex. Jex waved weakly. Yes, the advisor said slowly, as if choosing words carefully, of course, as they moved away. Moral lingered half a breath longer than protocol would like. Her ears flicked once quick. Private, wish me luck, she whispered. You don't need luck, Jex said. You need to remember they're all just people pretending very hard. She nodded once and walked off, power settling around her like armor. Hours later, the station didn't tremble physically, but socially. Whispers raced, negotiations stalled, terms revised, voices raised, then lowered, then changed shape. Jex heard none of it directly. He only felt tension in the air, like systems holding their breath. When Moral returned, it was long after his shift should have ended. Hangar lights had dimmed to night cycle. Shadows stretched quiet across stacked freight. She stood in the doorway, shoulders looser than he'd ever seen. Well, Jex asked. She exhaled, relief and something like triumph in the sound. They attempted to corner me with tradition. I answered with questions. Jex's grin spread. Questions are dangerous. They are, she agreed, eyes bright. Especially honest ones. She told him, haltingly at first, then with growing ease. How she listened instead of posturing. How she named fears instead of dismissing them. How she actually laughed when a delegate tried to intimidate her with an anecdote older than his species. They did not know what to do, she said. One accused me of being disarming. Jex chuckled. That's diplomatic code for we didn't rehearse against this. The agreement stands, she said. Improved. They left unsettled. Best possible outcome, Jex said. No one trusts a deal everyone's comfortable with. Her smile softened, then faded into something quieter. I almost hesitated, she admitted, at the beginning. And then I heard your voice in my mind. Jex blinked. That's either flattering or deeply concerning. You said pretending forever is dangerous, she continued. So I stopped pretending. They stood together in the low hum of the hangar. I will not be able to come here often, she said gently. They will watch more closely now. Yeah, Jex said. You rocked the boat. But I will not forget what I learned here. Me neither. Jex said. I'm probably doomed to remember meeting a queen who knows what a broken vending machine sounds like. She laughed again, then stepped closer and pressed something small into his hand. A token, simple, unmarked, warm to the touch like it held a steady ember inside. For when the universe feels personally offensive again, she said. Jex curled his fingers around it. I'll keep it handy. Duty chimed softly in her invisible leash. I have to go, she said. I figured, Jex replied. Queens stay busy. She hesitated, then looked at him with that unguarded expression she only wore here. Sleep, she ordered softly. You look terrible. Jex laughed. Your Majesty. That's the nicest thing anyone has said to me all day. She left, and the hangar felt quieter, but not empty. After that, the galaxy refused to leave Jex alone. News feeds began buzzing about the stellar concord. Negotiations ended faster than expected. Trade corridors stabilized. A border dispute resolved. Not with threats, but with mutual concessions and bafflingly a joint cultural exchange. Commentators tripped over words trying to describe the shift. Approachable, unexpected, direct. One analyst even used the word human with visible confusion, as if it were a kind of weather. Jex watched a broadcast one evening while eating dinner from a dispenser that had finally learned his name. Queen Moral stood at a podium, formal and composed, ears uncovered, eyes steady. She spoke plainly. She answered barbed questions without slipping into ceremony. Just once she smiled like a person instead of a symbol. Jex choked on his food. She's doing it, he muttered. She's actually doing it. A co-worker glanced over. Doing what? Nothing, Jex said quickly. Just history. Weeks passed. The token stayed in his locker, warm no matter how cold the cargo bay got. Jex told himself it was probably advanced Concord tech and emotional stabilizer, a quantum charm, a pocket-sized rebellion. He didn't analyze it too closely. Some things worked better when left mysterious. Then one day, Moral came back. No disguise, no entourage. She walked openly down the cargo lanes as workers stared and pretended not to. A hush spread across the hangar like a dropped glass. Jex set a crate to idle and turned. She stood there regal and relaxed all at once, ears simply adorned, expression warm. When she smiled at him, it was unmistakably personal. "You know," Jex said, "this is how rumors start. Let them," Moral replied. "They need better ones." They walked to the hangar's edge, where the familiar steel and lights felt smaller now, like a room that had witnessed something private. For a moment neither spoke. "I will be leaving this station," she said at last. "My presence is required elsewhere." Jex nodded, throat tight in a way he didn't like to examine. "Figures. Galaxy's big. You've got places to be." "Yes," she said. Then, softer, "But before I go, I wanted to thank you properly." Jex scratched his jaw. "I'm still not sure what I did." "You reminded me I am alive," she said simply. "Not a symbol, not a role, a person who can laugh at bad jokes and speak without fear." Jex's smile came easier than it used to. "For the record, my jokes are excellent. My timing is terrible." Her ears flicked back in fond amusement. "Jex Karen, you changed how I rule." "That seems excessive," he said. "Perhaps," she replied. "But true." She reached out and placed her hand over his briefly. Warm, grounding. "I will not ask you to follow me," she continued. "Your place is here." Jex blinked. "Good. Because I just got the vending machine to respect me." She laughed, the sound rolling through the hangar like something that belonged. "Then know this," she said. "Wherever I stand, I will remember the cargo handler who spoke to me without fear." Jex straightened, feeling oddly taller. "And wherever I am," he said, "I'll remember the queen who asked for honesty and meant it." They parted without ceremony. No grand promises, no dramatic farewell. Just a shared look that carried everything they didn't need to say out loud. When she walked away, Jex returned to his work. The crates felt lighter, the station less hostile, the universe still offensive, sure but manageable. Later that night, alone in the quiet hangar, he opened his locker and held the token in his palm. It pulsed gently, steady, and warm. "Yeah," he said to no one. "I get it." He closed the locker, rolled his shoulders, and stepped back into the grind with something he hadn't had before. Not rest, not luck, just the strange, stubborn power of having been seen and having learned that sometimes the most dangerous gift you can give the universe is a truth spoken without fear.